Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. So, on a recent episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, you may have seen this already, his guest was actor and now vegan Russell Brand. And not surprisingly, Joe was very anti-vegan. He was trying to convince Russell to not be vegan by using some really just flat out nonsensical, illogical arguments, which we'll get to in a second. And I want to state right up front too, I know Mike the Vegan already made a video about this Joe Rogan episode, and I made a great point not to watch any of it yet, so I wouldn't be influenced by any of Mike's great ideas. So all great ideas contained in this video are mine, and I'm going to watch Mike's video as soon as I'm done editing here. So anyway, let's jump right in.
But you'll be better. You know, you're a fit guy, you're a healthy guy. If you just keep going, get off that fucking vegan diet and keep going.
Yeah, Russell, you'll be better if you're not a vegan, if you start eating animals again. I mean, look at him, as you said there, Joe. He's fit, he's healthy as far as we know, no problems that we're aware of. What basis do you have to say that Russell will be better if he's not a vegan anymore?
I watched a documentary called What the Health. Have you seen it?
It's filled with a lot of propaganda. Nonsense.
Propaganda.
They used a lot of discredited studies.
Oh, really, Joe? Come on. Just because it goes against your personal biases, it does not mean that the movie is filled with propaganda and supported by discredited studies. I mean, I know what you're saying about discredited studies. You're really influenced by that one video that Z-Dog made trying to debunk What the Health, but I've debunked his video several times over. The guy is not a researcher. He knows absolutely nothing about nutrition, and it shows.
Look at the tone shift. You skip ahead and all of a sudden it's like, here we are, we're vegans, we are living large, everybody lives forever, and I'm ripped.
I just want everybody to feel this way. I feel like a 20-year-old. I'm almost 50.
I'm also high as fuck right now. Fructose is the predominant fruit sugar in fruit. Is it bad for you if it's a toxin? Well, when God creates a poison, he wraps it in the antidote naturally.
So in addition to relying on the authority of Z-Dog's video there, Joe goes on to dismiss all the claims made in What the Health because, as he says, the studies are all epidemiology. But as we'll see, Joe doesn't even know what that really means.
And there's a lot of epidemiology studies that'll connect things.
Epidemiology, what does that mean? Like an epidemic?
Well, we could pull up what the actual. They would do these studies, and essentially it would be they would ask you what you eat on a daily basis, how often do you eat meat, and it's basically a survey. And in that survey, they would say, well, there's a direct correlation between people that eat meat and diabetes.
Well, not to get too nitpicky here, but that's not what epidemiology is. What Joe is so eloquently describing properly here is survey research, which is not the same thing.
Right? They're dealing with how often do you eat red meat? How often do you eat this? How often do you eat that? And then they find, oh, well, there's more instances of diabetes in people that eat meat. Okay, but is it people that eat meat and vegetables, or is it people that eat meat and vegetables and Diet Coke and sugary sodas and ice cream and French fries, and how are they eating their meat?
So what Joe is describing there is what's known as confounding variables, which are these outside factors which can produce false associations. But in good, solid epidemiological studies, the researchers account for such confounding variables. But let's take a look at some studies where these confounding variables were minimized as much as humanly possible. In the Adventist Health Study 2, all of its participants are Seventh-day Adventists, and they all share a similar clean, healthy, no junk food lifestyle. So those confounding variables are eliminated. And if you see the chart on the right for type 2 diabetes prevalence, you'll see that it's lowest amongst vegans, and the more and more meat and animal products you add into your diet, it gets higher and higher and higher. And remember how Joe was complaining about survey research and or epidemiology? What I think he was trying to say is that he would have preferred to see clinical trials rather than surveys or epidemiology. Well, and once again, Joe's wrong here. Check out this 74-week clinical trial comparing the effects of intervening with people that had diabetes, giving them either the conventional diabetes treatment diet, which is not vegan, versus that of a high-carb, low-fat vegan diet. And the vegan diet actually had better results than the conventional diabetes diet did.
There's very little evidence that shows there's anything wrong with eating meat if you follow a normal, healthy, what they would call a primal diet.
Yeah.
Meaning, cut out all the grains, cut out all the sugar, eat vegetables and meat.
So Joe appears to be correct here. There is very little evidence showing that eating meat in this primal diet he's talking about here is bad for you. And he's right, because there seems to be very little research done into this subject matter, to studying primal diets. Trying to find this clean primal paleo diet that Joe is promoting here, I found this randomized trial comparing the high protein Nordic nutrition recommendation diet to a high protein paleo diet. I don't think Joe would have too much bad to say about the paleo diet that these researchers use. It's pretty much what he says to eat: lean meat, fish, vegetables, and no grains. However, neither of these diets were particularly good for people's hearts. After 2 years, there were significant decreases in left ventricular mass. The study was lacking a control group, so I think it would have been quite interesting to see how a low-protein group would have compared as far as their left ventricular mass expansion went. But I'd like to point out, though, that as far as heart disease goes, remember, that's the #1 killer of people, that a vegan diet, particularly a high-carb, low-fat, plant-based diet, has been the only diet shown to reverse previously clogged artery progression, as these angiograms from Dr. Esselson's studies show. And there's many studies that have found an association between low-carb diets and all-cause mortality. And furthermore, the World Health Organization has classified red meat as a Group 2A, a possible carcinogen. So Joe is pretty wrong when he says there's pretty much no evidence showing that eating a clean meat diet isn't bad for you.
Most of what you're getting is vegan propaganda. People that want other people to be convinced that the way that they're living is the correct way, and that eating meat is physically bad for you and is causing all these harms.
Well, eating meat is indeed causing harm. All you got to do is head over to the Cowspiracy Facts page, and you'll see hundreds of facts which are backed by research and governmental statistics showing the environmental devastation that's being caused by animal agriculture.
Most of what you're getting is vegan propaganda.
So Joe's going on here again about What the Health and how it's all just vegan propaganda. All the facts and science underlying What the Health are just crazy vegan propaganda. Well, if you go to the What the Health Facts webpage here, you'll see a claim that I'm sure Joe would gladly disagree with, that carbohydrate consumption is inversely related to diabetes. So according to him, this is just crazy propaganda, just some crazy guy like me or a blogger saying this. No, these articles are being published in the British Journal of Nutrition and the Diabetes and Research and Clinical Practice. Far from being vegan propaganda, Joe. These are peer-reviewed studies in respected journals. And since Joe keeps throwing out the propaganda word here at us, let's look at its definition. It's information, especially of a misleading or biased nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. And that really seems like what Joe's doing here. He's extremely biased against vegan diets, trying to tell Russell Brand to quit here. And Joe's basing his dismissal of veganism on just complete BS here. It's like there's no science. The claims he's making just don't hold any water. Are you projecting a bit much here, Joe?
There was no understanding of excess carbs, and how excess carbs leads to excess body weight, and it makes you store fat.
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
Eating too much of any macronutrient, eating too much of any food will cause you to gain weight, but there's nothing special about carbs. As I showed earlier in the Venice Health study too, they're eating mainly plants, the vegans, because plants are mainly composed of carbohydrates. So why would it be that they have the leanest body mass indexes, and myself included for a high carb eater?
The thing about nutrition is that nutrition science is it's a body of knowledge that's constantly added to.
Yeah, Joe, that's pretty much how all science works.
Do you do any, I feel like I've heard you talk about hormone stuff.
Yeah, I do hormone replacement therapy.
What type of things?
Testosterone and human growth hormone. You want to make sure that you stay within a very narrow range where you have what are the healthy levels of a person that's in their late 20s. That's really what you want.
Well, I do find it a little ironic that Joe brings up testosterone replacement therapy when he's talking to a vegan here, because vegans have been shown to have higher T levels naturally. And Joe, as he said here, he's not trying to go crazy and have these super insane testosterone levels. He wants those of a person in their prime, like in their late 20s. Well, as I showed on my most recent blood test, that's exactly where my testosterone levels are, 744, right in line for someone who's 28 years old. Yet I'm 51, the same exact age as Joe. And again, this is happening naturally. No testosterone replacement therapy or anything like that. And I'm just not some kind of freak of nature. There's actual science showing this is what happens normally to plant eaters.
High protein diets suppress testosterone. That's why if you take men eating plant-based diets and have them start eating meat every day, their testosterone levels go down, and actually some estrogens go up.
You know, for a pretty clever guy, I gotta say, Joe Rogan amazes me in how he always gets it wrong when it comes to veganism. How can a person always be so wrong year after year? He doesn't learn. I guess he's stuck in his own biased propaganda. Yeah, Joe, I said it. You're the one putting propaganda out here. What you're saying here is not based on any truth, fact, or science. You're just making stuff up or just using anecdotal evidence. So anyway, guys, leave your questions and comments down below. What do you think of Joe Rogan and his propaganda here? What's your favorite piece of his anti-vegan propaganda that he says over and over again? So anyway, gotta go now, guys. So until next time, remember this, Russell Brand knows it too. Doesn't suck being vegan.
Round